Welcome. You know who it is. You know what it is. This is Rich Bees, the real Rich Bees. We're back. And today, we're going to jump right in, okay? Bunny hop, boom. We're going to jump right into this one. Why? Because we started the topic yesterday, right? We started yesterday. Today, we're going to start where we ended. Where did we end? What was the last thing we talked about? Remember? We said there was a word that you needed to use, right? We said there was a word that you needed to use, and that word started with a D. Okay? Did y'all figure it out? You know what we should do? We should check, right? We should check the YouTube and see if anybody put it in the comments. And let's see. Let's see, did anybody put it in the comments? Did anybody get it right? I guess that's where we can start. So let's look. Let's look. Let's go to the comments here. Not that, not that. Pop, 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 pop. Pop, 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 pop. Let's see. Did anybody get it right? I'm in the comments now. And no. Nobody got it right. Nobody even, I guess, has a clue of what word starts with a D that you should use based on what we talked about. Okay? So if we go back and we remember what we talked about, here let's recap, okay? We're going to recap. Yesterday, we talked about how all advice ain't for you, right? That's what we talked about. We said all advice ain't for you. Just because something worked for somebody else does not mean it fits your life. Doesn't mean that, right? So today, we are taking it one step deeper, right? One step deeper. We're going to go in. Why are we going in? Because the word for today, the word that started with a D that I asked y'all yesterday, the word today is discernment. That's the word. So we are continuing on the path, and we're going to talk about what you need to use, right, to figure out whether or not something actually will work for you. That's what we're on. All right. Did y'all know what the word was? Come on. I'm asking. Did you know? If you didn't know, it's cool, right? If you did know, you should have put it in the comments. You ain't know. I could have had a surprise for somebody. You know what I'm saying? I could have put something out there for y'all so that way, y'all can get blessed. You know what I'm saying? But y'all didn't get it right. Nobody looked it up. Nobody went and figured it out. And it's cool because we're still going to get into the topic. Discernment. That's what we're talking about. So let's go to the dictionary and figure out what this word actually means. And here's the crazy part is I did pull it up first. Normally I don't pull it up before, but I pulled it up today for some reason. I don't know why. But what I realized is I don't like the dictionary definition of what this is. And maybe it's because I'm looking at the wrong dictionary. So I'm going to go to this dictionary and then we're going to pull up a different dictionary, right? When we pull up the second dictionary, then we'll look at what it looks like in that dictionary, okay? Because I don't know if maybe the dictionary, maybe there's some differences in the definition. Possibly. I don't know. We're going to figure it out though, okay? So here's what we're going to do. First things first is we're going to go to this dictionary and we're going to go to the desktop. Wow. Right? Discernment. See, told you I already had it pulled up. Here we go. So discernment, the faculty, right? The faculty of discerning, right? Discrimination, acuteness of judgment and understanding, right? So the thing about it is that I'm not too keen on this definition, right? Is this what you guys know the word to mean? Is this what you guys know the word to mean? I think this is more like what the actual definition is, right? Acuteness of judgment and understanding, right? But it's the faculty of discerning. The faculty of discerning. So what is discerning? Because what's the faculty of? Discern, right? Root word discern. To perceive by the sight or some other sense or by the intellect. See, recognize, or apprehend. Okay, that root word is correct. To distinguish mentally, recognize as distinct or different. Discriminate. Okay, so what does that mean? If we go back to discernment, the faculty of discerning, right? The faculty of discerning, which means that you have to put discerning into action, which gives you discernment, right? So to perceive by the sight or some other sense or by the intellect. Right? Or by the intellect. To distinguish mentally. That's what we're talking about. Right? To distinguish mentally. Here's, oh, can y'all not see that? Oh, there we go. Boom. Let's put it up. I'm sorry. Y'all didn't see that part. Definition 2. To distinguish mentally. Right there. Bow. I feel like this is more of what we're talking about. Right? To distinguish mentally. Because that is what we're talking about, right? Discernment would be, if I had to give you my spin on this word, discernment is knowing what fits and what does not, right? Distinguishing mentally. Right? Knowing what fits and what does not, right? What works and what does not work for you, right? Knowing what is true, what is half true, what is mistimed, and what is just flat out wrong for you. You have to use the discernment to figure that out, right? Use your own discernment, right? Because a lot of people don't have a life problem. They have a discernment problem. That's why today we're going to correct that, right? We're going to give you the points. We're going to figure out together what this looks like for your life. What does this look like for my life? We're going to figure this out, right? Because again, there is a knowing that has to take place, right? A knowing that has to take place for us to be able to intellectually or mentally figure out what's true, what's half true, what's mistimed, what is not, or what is wrong for us. Okay? What doesn't fit our trajectory. That's what we're trying to figure out. So I said we were going to go to a different dictionary and see what that says. Just because, right? Just because. So let's go to, what is it called? Merriam-Webster. Is that what it is? Yes. Let's go to Merriam-Webster. All right. And we're going to put in the same thing. Let's go to the desktop, bow, right? And we're going to type in discernment. Let's see what that says. Okay, see, it's what I'm talking about. Better definition, right? Better definition. Now, let me take this down because this was yesterday when we sit there and we were watching the Diary of a CEO. If you didn't see that stream from last night, because I did stream last night, go watch that stream where we were watching the Diary of a CEO Great podcast, great video podcast. Take a look at it. Because there's some understandings that we got out of it based on some of the other things that we're doing. And I was working on some stuff. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked. Let's get back to the point. We're talking about discernment, right? This definition is a little bit better. I really feel like this definition looks like it might give us more understanding. And that's the point. We want to get understanding, right? Above all things. So the quality of being able to grasp or comprehend what is obscure. Skill in discerning. Okay. An act of perceiving, right? An act of perceiving or discerning something. That's what we're talking about. The act of perceiving or discerning something. Now, here's the interesting thing. If we go back to dictionary.com and we scroll down to the British or version of discern, not of discern. I want to go to discernment. Let's back up. Let's go to discernment. Let's scroll down. The British version of discernment says keen perception or judgment. That keen perception or judgment, right? Bow. That part right there. Keen perception or judgment. That's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about having a keen perception or judgment. So based on yesterday, we talked about information being everywhere, right? You can get information from somewhere everywhere. We also know that opinions are everywhere, right? As we went through yesterday's live, we realized that also advice is everywhere, right? But discernment is what helps you separate, right? It helps you separate wisdom from noise, pressure from purpose, urgency from timing, copying from calling. Are we following? Okay. I know I'm giving you guys a lot so fast. If you can't keep up or if you need some more information on this stuff, say it in the chat. We'll slow down. We'll take it a little bit slower. But for right now, I know that you guys can go back. After this is over, you can go back, watch it again, or you can go to the YouTube and you can watch it there. Okay? If you need to, watch it at 2x speed. If you think I'm talking too fast, slow it down to half speed. It's on you. But here's some examples, right? We're going to bring this right to your doorstep. Okay? Right to your doorstep. Here we go. So if somebody says, quit your job and go all in. Remember, we talked about that yesterday, right? That might be humongous. That might be bold for them, right? But for you, that could be foolish, right? You have to use discernment to figure that out for your own situation. Here we go. Somebody says, cut everybody off. You don't need those people, right? For them, that might be protection, right? That might be, what do you call it? Self-preservation, right? But for you, that might look like isolation. And who wants to be isolated? Right? But to figure out which one is for you, it takes discernment in knowing who you are. What are your goals? Right? What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What is your trajectory for where you're going in life? Right? Based on your purpose. Got another one. So if somebody says, invest all your money into the dream, right? That might be a form of strategy for them. And for you, that might be chaos. That might be out of control. You might feel like, what? I still have a whole world I have to take care of, right? You can't take all of your money and invest it into the dream. Again, discernment, right? These are the things. It it seems crazy when we're talking about it like this. Why would somebody do that? Why would somebody tell somebody else to do these type of things? But if you have a dream, a goal, or aspiration, and you're going to someone else and getting advice, or you're hearing it randomly online, you know, it's kind of different when you go into someone who's like a mentor and advisor, because you've given them a little bit more context about your situation. But if you just get random information off the internet, that could not be for you, right? That's what we talked about yesterday. That advice is not for you. It's discernment that you have to use to figure out, is it, right? Does this match up with how my life works? I'm not saying that there is some times where you have to like step out, right? You have to like step out on the dream, right? But even if you're going to step out on the dream, the thing about it is you're going to have to count the cost, right? Before you step out, you need to count the cost. Where am I at right now? Right? And you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself because you know me. I'll hit you with the questions here in a minute. These are questions that you're going to have to ask yourself. We're not there yet, right? We're not there yet. Because what I want to do is let's stay right where we are, right? What we know is the issue is not always that the advice is bad, right? That's what we know. We do know that because it worked for them. So it can't be bad information, right? If somebody is telling you, a lot of times they're telling you because of their experiences, right? And it's not bad information. It is sound information, right? For them. The real issue here is, do you have enough discernment to know whether you should use that? Right? Because a lot of people blame the advice, right? The advice wasn't necessarily bad, right? The advice was something that the advisor knew works. More than likely, it's because they used it and it worked for them, right? So the advice is not bad. The issue is when you went to implement that into your life, you skipped the judgment part. You said, oh yeah, they did it. It must gonna work for me. Let me do it. Right? There's a judgment part that you have to take into account. There's a discernment that you have to take into account. What is going on with your situation? Right? Where does this take place? I think that a lot of times when we're doing this whole getting people's advice and all of that kind of stuff, like most advice is given in certain areas of your life, right? Most advice is given in certain areas, not every area, but here's some of the areas, right? Major areas. I would say relationships, right? People give mad advice on relationships. And the fact of the matter is, not too many people are successful in relationships. And when I say relationships right now, I'm talking about relationships between boyfriend, girlfriend, husband and wife, right? Those type of relationships, partnerships, if you will, when it comes to building a life together, right? Those relationships, people give so much advice about it as if they know, right? When their own relationship is not necessarily successful, right? What is your track record, right? And this is not me really shooting strays at people, right? But I'm gonna ask this: if a person is divorced, right? Why are you trying to give a married person advice? I can see maybe coming at your advice with what not to do, right? Based on what that person did and what made him get divorced. If they say, hey, don't do this because I did that and boom, I'm solo. You know what I mean? Like if they say that, then I mean, I get it, right? Like I get it. Because that's kind of a warning. But that still doesn't mean just because they did that's going to hinder your relationship? You don't know, right? You have to figure that out. You have to use your own discernment because you know your situation more than anybody else out here does, right? So that means that you have to take into account all of the players, all of the circumstances, right, in your sphere, and make a judgment call based on that, right? On whether or not that information is going to work for you. Because somebody can tell you that information didn't work for me, right? This information is bogus. It don't work. Cap. They can say whatever they want to say. That doesn't mean that information won't work for you, though. Right? A lot of times we hear some information that somebody says doesn't work. But when we think about it for our situation, we're like, but that sounds like that might work for me. Like, based on what's going on in my life, I think that's exactly the answer I've been looking for. Maybe. Possibly. Right? I'm not trying to tell you that you need to go take that bad information or what somebody else said was bad information. I'm not saying go take it. I'm saying discern whether or not it's something that you do need to have, or you do need to put into place, or something you do need to give or do or whatever. Right? The other another area that people tend to want to give a lot of information or a lot of advice, business, right? In business, people have all kinds of advice. They have all kinds of advice. Some of it may work, some of it may not. Some of it is capped, some of it is valuable, right? Some of it is a key to success, some of it is a hack, right? But you have to discern what will work for you and your business. You know your business. Now, unless you're talking to an advisor or someone else who's been in your business, your style of business, because even that, if somebody has been in the same style of business as you, that doesn't mean that they know your exact business, right? Because even though two people may be doing the same thing in business, right, it doesn't mean that their day-to-day operations or the way that their company runs is the same. If you're trying to disrupt a certain sector, you may be doing things different than the traditional people who've been in that sector, right? If you're going to disrupt a sector, then that inherently means that you're going to change something. You're going to do something different that everybody else chose not to do. You'll have your ups and downs with it, but the fact of the matter is, a disruption is exactly that. It disrupts. It changes the face or changes the game or changes the way in which that industry is now going to be doing business going forward, right? For instance, taxis. Taxis were ever since cars have been a thing, there has been companies that are taxi companies. They came, they picked you up, they put your stuff in the car, they were yellow, they had a little thing on the top that told you when they were available or when they were in the middle of a ride, and then they drove you off to wherever you needed to go, and then you paid the fare, they handed them the money, gave them a tip, whatever, and then you got out, right? They've made taxis where they block you off from the driver with a shield thing, right? All of that was to keep the driver safe, right? And you can see the little flag, right? The little and they put the flag up and you can see the meter running. That was a taxi. Uber came in and turned that industry on its head, right? They turned it on their head because they said, well, what are the things that you don't like about a taxi, right? Taxi doesn't feel like a real person. Sometimes taxi drivers are mean, right? All this kind of stuff. They this yellow cab. Everybody knows that you're in a taxi, right? Everybody is looking at you like, oh, you in a taxi, like, you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. So they said, well, hey, a ton of people have cars. They're also looking to make money on the side, right? They don't mind driving somebody around, right? Matter of fact, they don't have to even have any cash on them, right? This stops people from robbing the taxi if they do it on the phone, right? So they disrupted the whole industry, right? Because they disrupted the whole industry, we now have quick access to go almost anywhere within our, city or what have you, right? Except, fun fact, taxis are now typically cheaper and are more regulated. Yeah, that's a fact. That is a fact. That is a fact. But the only way they got there was because Uber came in and disrupted them, right? They didn't take the information or the advice that everybody was trying to put on them from the taxi lobbyist, if you will, right? They came in and they said, we're going to do something different, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, just because people are giving you certain advice, that doesn't mean that's for you. That might mean that you need to change, right? You need to change the game, do something different. You don't know. Like the only way you'll be able to know is if you discern, right, what is for you. Because you know your goal, you know your trajectory, you know your business, right? Another area that people give a lot of information, they give a lot of advice, is in friendships, right? People will tell you how to deal with your friend. Your friend will tell you how to deal with your relationship. Like, friendships are challenging because you care about them, but a lot of times you don't have any, you're not stuck with them. Like you're not tied to them. A friendship can end at any given time, and there's literally, it won't change your life, right? It's different than a relationship. A relationship, a lot of times you're invested in them. Friendships, you can be invested in, but friendships can switch up. A lot of people have friends that they're still friends, but they don't really hang out that much, right? They're in two different parts of the country or whatever, and they see each other and they're friends again for that amount of time that they're together. And then after they leave, they go apart, right? They have their own individual lives separate from each other. That's some friendships, right? But your friend can end up giving you information about something in your life, and just because they may know a little bit more about you than a stranger doesn't mean that the information or the advice that they're giving you is correct, right? You still have to discern whether or not that information is for you, right? I have to discern whether that information is for me, because nobody knows my situation better than I do, right? I know all the moving parts, right? People will give you advice about opportunities. People will give you advice about timing, right? People will give you advice on who you should listen to. Now, understand, when I'm telling you the stuff that I'm saying right now, I'm not telling you who you should or should not listen to. That's not my point. My point is to tell you that whoever you listen to, use discernment, right? On whether that information that they're giving you is for you. Because it's not on me to tell you who you should or should not listen to. It's on me to say, hey, listen to whoever you want to listen to. Just make sure you use discernment and think about how that information that they're giving you, that advice they're giving you, applies to your life, right? You have to also discern even the things that you repeat to yourself, whether or not the things that you say to yourself is for you. Because sometimes we tell ourselves stories that is not even for us. And I think a lot of people don't even realize that they are hurting themselves because they're telling themselves information or giving themselves their own advice that doesn't even work in their life. And it ain't because they don't know what the circumstances of their life. It's because they hope that this thing is going to work in their life, right? They haven't really judged it correctly. Their discernment was off on whether the information they even told themselves was for them or for right now, whether that timing, right, was appropriate for them to go do that thing or move that way or say that thing to their spouse or to their friend or to their, business partner or coworker or whatever, right? Discernment is huge. And I believe that we need to take time to think about this. And that's the reason why I'm doing this one today. All right. To a comment. Here we go. As a designer, You have to use discernment every time you share work with someone. That's a fact, because I too am a designer. Lots of non-designers have opinions. Yes, they do. Sometimes they hit you with great perspective, right? But it ultimately doesn't apply with what you were trying to achieve with the design. Yes. And a lot of times they don't even know what the requirements were, right? They don't know what the requirements were. They don't know what the project's about. They don't know what the end goal is. They don't know any of that, but yet they have an opinion. Oh, no, I think you should move that over there or whatever. Like, okay, thank you for the information, right? You thank them. You don't get mad at them. Well, you don't know. You don't have to defend yourself and boss up on them. Only thing you got to say is, okay, thank you for that, right? Thank you for that perspective. I appreciate that. You know, like, it's not on you to put them in their place, right? Not on you. That doesn't make you a better person, which is, that's the point of this channel, right? That doesn't make you a better person. What that does is it makes you to them seem like somebody who is rude, right? So take their information, thank them for that information, right? For their opinion, and you discern whether or not to use it. That's a great point. That's a great point. Appreciate that. That is a great point, that we do have to use that. And you know what? I think a lot of industries have to use discernment more than they even realize they're using discernment, right? Because discernment, again, is like judgment, right? Discernment is like you're using your mental faculties to judge whether or not something is for you, or for now, or for the situation, or for my life, right? That all takes discernment, right? Now, remember I told you I'm gonna hit you with some questions, because here's some questions that you might need to ask yourself to try to discern whether or not an opportunity, some advice, information is for you. Okay, here's some questions, right? Does this fit who I'm becoming? Right? That information that they gave me, does that actually fit where I'm going in my life? Right? The person that I'm trying to become, does this match up? And that's why I think even when we were talking in my earlier lives, when I first started out, I was starting out talking through the whole goal setting, right? Planning. And I did that on purpose, because what I needed you guys to do is the same thing I was doing at the time, which is figure out what are your goals, what are your dreams, what are your aspirations, where do you see yourself, and then make sure that you have a plan to get there, right? Because if you do that, then it will be easy to discern something that's for you or not for you, right? Because if it gets you off track of you being able to hit your targets, to hit your, to follow your plan, to achieve your goal, if it takes you off track from that, that's not for you. It becomes easier to discern this, right? To judge. Okay? Another question that you might want to ask yourself is, does this fit my actual season, right? Where I'm at right now in my life is what they're saying for now, right? Is what I'm saying, even in my mind, right? What the story I'm telling myself, is it for now? Is it for now, or is it for later? Right? Or is it for not at all? Like, that's not for me at all. Right? And I think that is one of the huge questions that we have to ask, because some information is for you. You don't think it is because it's not for right now, but it is, and it does apply. If you would just take it, sit it on the shelf, right? Write it in a notebook, keep it until later, make a note in your phone, something that you can refer back to it later, because when you need it, you may be like, man, somebody told me something, and I don't remember I don't remember who it was. I don't remember what they said, but I feel like I really need to figure out what that is. And then you're trying to figure out who it was. Then you're trying to figure out how can I call them. And then you're trying to ask them, well, what did you tell me? You said something about, they don't even remember because it was just a moment of spark that connected and they gave you some information, right? They gave you a key, they gave you a jewel that you could have put into place, but you didn't take note of it, right? It might not be for now, but you might want to create a note. Here's one thing that I do. And I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying that y'all should be like me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just giving you an idea of something that I did that I feel like has been working for me, okay? For me, if somebody gives me some information, or if I find out something, or if I have an idea or whatever, I'll write it in a note in a note on my phone. Right? I have one note on my phone that I use it in it's labeled advice, right? And then I have another one that's labeled ideas, right? So I have two notes. One is labeled advice, and the other one is labeled ideas. I use those whenever somebody gives me some information, or I find out something, or I have an idea or something, and I put it in there. And it's not categorized or nothing. It's just bullet points, right? Bullet point ideas. Boom, here's another one. Boom, here's another one. And I do that because there's times where I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I want to create, like there's something I just feel like I should be doing. Like there's an idea I had that I want to put into place. I feel like that's something I can start to make some, headway on. And so what do? I know it's in my notes, so I'm gonna go to my notes, pull up my ideas, and I'm be like, boom, that's the one right there, right? Quick, fast, in a hurry, because I have it still, because I made a note about it. And I'm using that note all the time. So that means that I already know where to go when I have an idea. When I hear something, I know where to go. I'm going to put it in there. All right? Does that make sense? Hopefully that helps you out. All right. I think that question heavily leans into the conversation about who you keep in your inner circle. Ooh, 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 ooh. You jumping, Jackson Riley. Cool. Ooh, you jumping. Look. So let me think about that. I have to think about that because I had a stream about boundaries. We had a stream. I think the question heavily leans into the conversation about who you keep in your inner circle. Yeah, boundaries was one that kind of spoke on that a little bit. And I feel like we did another one. That kind of leaned into that a little bit. But that's interesting because you're jumping a little bit. Why I'm saying that is because that would be something here in the next couple streams that could fit. So again, that was great. I'm going to make a note of it. Like I was just saying, I'm going to make a note of it. And we might have to circle back on that one. Yep. I got it. And boom, we put it in the note. So we have a note now because that's a great idea. Like I said, I don't think it's right now. I think it's probably within this week somewhere. What's today, Tuesday? Because I'm thinking about the other topics, like where I'm going after this discernment. That might be key, but I kind of feel like we did something already in that. So I'm going to have to look it up. I'm going to have to figure that out. Thanks for that suggestion, though, Jackson. And as a matter of fact, if you have any suggestions, you can go to the suggestion box under this video in the suggestion box and put in any idea that you have. There are any suggestion that you would think I should cover as we're continuing to become better, right? Drop it in the suggestion box. Because that way I can get them and I can try to, put them into an order so that way this stuff makes sense. Because again, when I'm doing these lives, a lot of times I'm building upon what we've already talked about, right? I can't introduce a topic without having some connection to the things that we've already grown, right? We've already changed in our life. We've already built from. I may soon, like hit a like a 90-degree turn, and then quick, and then a quick right, like make a left and then a quick right. I might do that coming soon because I have some ideas for something, and I know it's going to take us off course for a minute, and then we're going to have to jump back on track. But I think it will still help us in the becoming, right? In the becoming our best self. Okay, hold up. A little off track. Let's get back to the questions. Here's the question that we were talking about, right? The next question, because the first question was, does this fit who I'm becoming, right? That's the first question. Second question is, does this fit the season that I'm in, right? The actual season that I'm in. Does this fit? Next question, does this create growth or confusion, right? Does this help me to grow, or does this cause confusion in my life based on the information, right? The whole point is that each decision that you make and each step that you take should help you to grow. Even if that steps takes you down, right? In the end, sometimes you have to learn a lesson so you can grow and come back stronger. That doesn't mean that you implement everything that you hear. I'm saying that once you discern what's for you, sometimes you already pre-know, I'm going to have to make a lateral step, right? Like I just said, as a matter of fact, that fits because I just said that in our going forward, right, in who we're becoming, there's a topic that I think is going to make us have to sidestep, right? We might have to make a hard 90-degree turn and then make a quick right to stay parallel to where we would have been, only to come back and jump back on the track of where we're going, right? Because I feel like there's a side subject that we need to know to be able to keep going forward, okay? Yeah, 3 steps back can grant you greater perspective, which leaps to 5 leaps forward, and you grow faster and stronger than you expected. Exactly. That's my point. Sometimes you have to make a lateral step. Sometimes you got to take a couple steps back. One of the things that someone wise once told me is that you can't see the picture that you're in if you're inside the frame, right? Sometimes you have to step out of the frame. I got to step out of the situation to be able to look at it and see exactly what's going on. So that 3 steps back to grant you greater perspective, yes, right? If I'm running a race and I have, or not running a race, but, well, I mean, you can say that, but, and this might not be the best analogy, but if I'm running a race and we have people, right, next to us, and so everybody's running, and then I slow down just a little bit, just so I can get a sense of where everybody is, right? And it's probably better on a long distance race, but on a short distance race, you might not have much time to do this, but you might take just kind of slow down just a little bit, just so you can look side to side to see where everybody is, and then like hit it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, if you focused on the tree, you may miss the forest. Yes, but we had a whole stream where we talked about the whole thing of staying focused, right? Because if you stay focused, it's the same thing as I need to pay attention to the path. I can't say, watch out for the trees, right? Because if I say watch out for the trees, then the only thing that I see is trees, and I'm trying not to hit them, right? If I'm skiing down a mountain and I say, hey, and somebody says, watch out for the trees, right? If they say watch out for the trees, then in my mind, if that's the last thing I hear, then the only thing I'm going to be doing is looking at trees. I'm going to be figuring out how to watch out for the trees. If somebody says, stay on the path, right? Just stay on the path. Then when I'm going down the mountain, the only thing I'm thinking about is staying on the path. So the only thing I see is the path, which means I can go a lot faster because I'm not worried about the trees. I only see the path. I'm staying on the path. This is what I'm saying about also that certain advice is not the right type of advice for this current situation that you're in, right? But I do understand what you're saying about perspective when you're saying, if you focus on one tree, you can't see the forest. I get it. Okay. Next question, right? Next question. Am I being led by wisdom or emotion? These are discerning questions. These are ways that you can discern whether something is for you right now or whether it's not, right? Am I being led by wisdom or am I being led by emotion? Because if you're being led by emotion, then it feels good. Oh man, this feels right. Oh, we're going to get it in. This is going to be huge. Oh, right? You might need to take a step back again, right? Because that hypeness, that emotion, don't get me wrong, it may motivate you to do something, but wisdom may say, let me take a step back. Let me look at this. Does this actually fit, right? And you might have to take a day to think it through. Does this fit first? And then make your decision, right? Because decisions aren't always urgent, right? Sometimes we feel pressure that we have to do something or make a decision now. And a lot of times that's the misleading thing, is that people will try to put the pressure on us to make a decision now about some information they gave or something like that. But that doesn't give you the ability to filter whether or not it's for you or not, whether that thing you should do or not. So that's why I'm saying we have to sometimes take that step back, hear the information, and then figure out, is this right for us, right? Because that's the last question. Am I moving on this topic or on this subject or on this information because it's right for me? Or am I moving on it because I just feel pressure, right? I feel like somebody's putting pressure on me to do it. Okay? All right, if you ride motorcycles, you're taught to never look at the tree and to look at where you want to go. Right. I've taken that as a lesson of knowing when you need to look past the distractions so you can avoid the obstacle. Right. Right. Because you're going to go where you look. You're going to go where your energy flows. And where your energy normally flows is where you're looking. Right? So if I continue to look at these obstacles and see these obstacles that are in my way of hitting success, I won't reach it because I'm going to keep hitting obstacles because that's all I see. Right? If I can continue to see the vision of my goals, to see what success looks like in my life, to see myself staying on the path, staying on the road, making sure that I'm, moving as swift as I can, but keeping on my path, not switching lanes, not going to somebody else's path, doing what other people are doing. I'm staying in my lane. You will achieve the success that's made for you, right? And you won't get distracted. This is the things that we've been talking about over the last 4 months now, right? December, January, February, March, April, May. Yeah, 4 months, because May is going to make 5 months. Actually, tomorrow is going to make 5 months. No, tomorrow makes 4. So we've been streaming for 4 months, right? We've been going live almost every day for 4 months, right? Come tomorrow, April 22nd, my 4-month anniversary. 4 months, 4 months, 4 months, 4 months, 4 months. And we have some subscribers, right? We have some followers. We have upped our subscriber count on YouTube. And I don't know about TikTok, man. I don't know. TikTok, y'all boys is whack. Y'all don't want to follow your boy, but that's okay. All right. Anyway, let's keep going. We're gonna bring this for a landing here in a second. We're gonna go through this one last piece. Okay, one last piece. All right. So my piece at this point is we need to go a little bit deeper on what discernment is. Okay. Or what it is not. One of the two. But we'll see. Discernment is not negativity, right? It's not judgment for judgment's sake, right? We're not judging things and calling that discernment, right? Discernment is not fear. I'm not gonna do this thing because it's bad information. Like I think if I do it, it's gonna put me, and you're judging the information that's coming in based on fear. That's not what discernment is, right? Discernment is not overthinking that, because remember I told you might need to take a step back, think about it. Is it something that is going to fit your life? Don't overthink it, right? You look at your space, you look at the things that mean something to you. What are your values? What are your goals? What is your access, right? What does the scope look like to you? And then you judge it on that, right? Don't overthink it. That's what you call counting the cost, right? If I did that, here's what it would cost me, right? Okay, so all right, I am able to go live on TikTok. I have went live on TikTok. The problem with TikTok that I had was that when I went live on there, um, I had random people doing random things in my comments. And if, as a matter of fact, if you go on my YouTube and go all the way back to one of the first shorts that I did once I started this stream, one of the first shorts that I put in there was me kind of getting pissed about somebody in my comments. And that comment was being done on TikTok because I was streaming on Twitch and TikTok at the same time. And the comment came off TikTok. And I was like, is this what TikTok is? You know what I mean? Like, is TikTok gonna give me that type of people in my chat? Like, I was like, well, I'll come back to doing lives on TikTok later. Right now, let me get some of this content out, and then I'll probably bring TikTok back on later. And so I think I'm going to do it that way. But I do want to have some followers, more followers on TikTok first before I go back live again. You know what I'm saying? So what I was saying is discernment is not overthinking. Don't overthink it. Set a time frame that you're going to actually have an answer, or you're going to judge this situation. But I would just say you don't even have to put a hard timeline, but as soon as possible, right? Literally, when somebody gives you information, if it's some information that could or could not work for you and you're trying to figure out, does it fit? Ask yourself the questions that we talked about and then just make the decision, right? Make the decision. If it fits, great. If it doesn't fit, great too. No harm, no foul, right? You didn't change anything. You might just need to make a note of it because maybe it's something that you might need to use later, right? Because what we know is discernment is clarity. That's what discernment is. It's clarity, right? It helps you to move with more peace, with more intention, because you're not just reacting to everything that you hear. You're actually making a solid judgment on what's going on in your world, right? So I need you all to remember that everything that sounds good is not good for you, right? Everything that is true might not be true for you in this moment, right? Everything that is available is not always assigned to you. That's why the word of today is discernment. Okay? So what I need you to do is I need you to keep building your discernment muscle. Okay? The only way you're going to build your discernment muscle is to take in information. So as you're talking to people, because you should be, right? You should be networking. You should be, communicating with others and stuff like that. And you take that information in. And then you discern whether or not that's for you. You can, if you have a dream, a goal, to aspiration, you can actually look that thing up on YouTube, right? You can look that thing up online somewhere. And as you start to parse through this information, right, Matter of fact, you could even look it up on TikTok. But as you're looking up this information and you're figuring out whether you're going to do this idea or do this business or, implement this thing in your relationship or whatever, discern whether or not it's for you, right? Go through the questions, go back on this video, listen to the questions again if you didn't write them down, and piece through that and say, hey, is this for me? Is this for me right now? Is this something that is going to help me to grow, right? Is this something that's going to help me to become the person that I need to become to achieve my goal? Okay? Because I got to get it out. I got tongue tied. Because I burnt my tongue on my tea. There's that. But okay. So what I'm saying is that if you don't build your discernment, you will keep letting other people's words run your life. So that's why I'm saying make sure you build that discernment muscle as soon as possible. Because there's a lot of information out here in this world. There's a lot of people that's willing to speak into your life and try to force you or move you into what they want to be or into what they think you should do. But that's not what we're doing here, right? Not if you're on my lives. We're taking control of our life. We're becoming a better version of ourselves. And we're showing up and leading in everything that we're involved in, right? Just because you might not be in charge doesn't mean that you can't lead. Whatever you do, lead it. Be the leader of it. And it may take time. You may have to grow. You may have to change. There might be some things that you have to put in place for you to become a leader. But the point is that when you become your best self and you show up as your best self, you will be a leader. You will have a sphere of influence in which you're leading. People are looking to you for that thing. Okay? Whatever that may be. So if you're a designer, if you're a developer, if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a father, if you're a mother, if you're whatever you are in this world, lead it. And the best way to lead it is by discernment. All those opinions, people have them. There's more opinions than buttholes. That's what they say. There's more opinions than buttholes. Everybody has one. So, all I'm trying to say is use discernment to figure out, what's for you? What are the things you need to do? Whether or not you should do them or not. And once you realize the things you should do, don't waste any time. Jump on them right now. Okay? Once you discern that thing is for you, what's the point in waiting? Right? If it's for you and it's for now and it helps you grow, what you waiting on? Right? What you waiting on? I hope this topic is one of those things. Right? Because by the way, this is advice. Right? This is advice. And I'm saying to use discernment. So that means that now you can figure out, is discernment for you? I think it is, but it's on you to discern whether or not it is, which means you have to use discernment. Gotcha. 52 fake out. Here we go. All right, one last question and then we out of here. One last comment. All right, I might have stumbled into building a brand over the weekend. Oh shoot, that's what's up. I now have the knowledge about how to go about it and accept slow growth instead of chasing instant success. I'm a fan of both. I think each has its benefits and drawbacks. Okay. My thought about instant success is there is a place where instant success can get you into a place that allows you to do the other things, right? Where you have financial safety, which allows you to build the slower growth things. However, what I have always believed personally is that slow growth will last longer, right? So if I choose the instant success and blow up today, boom, I got millions and millions of viewers, millions and millions of followers. What I've seen over time is that it doesn't last. It's rare that it lasts for people, right? I believe that the success that really truly lasts is success that's built over time. That time can be relatively short, meaning not instant, like not an overnight success, if you will, but like let's say the success might take you 6 to 12 months. That's still grown. That's not overnight. That's still built. You know what I mean? But if you drop one video, this is just an example. If you drop one video and that video goes viral and you got 20 billion streams, that's one video with 20 billion streams. Your next video might be zero. You know what I'm saying? I found instant success is in being a designer, which is allowing me to have the freedom and time to build something special that I truly believe, to grow something large if it's done slowly. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Methodically. Yeah, I get you. I knew what word you were trying to say. But that's what I'm saying. Instant success is one of those things that can help you blow up. Just to be able to get either one, an audience, or revenue, right? You can get instant audience, instant revenue. If you can get into something that can give you instant success. But instant success, a lot of times, it's not something that you did on purpose, right? If you hit instant success, it's because somebody saw something, somebody blew something, promoted something because they thought that thing was dope, right? So they ended up putting that thing out there and it blew up. They ended up pushing it to their friend or whatever, and it just kind of got legs. And that happened very fast because that can happen these days. We all know that. And so the problem is that you didn't design that thing that went viral, right? When I say design it, I mean you didn't know when you did it that it was gonna go that way. You just did something that you thought was dope and it ended up blowing up. Yes, it still helps you because it gets you an audience, it gets you money. Those things you take in immediately, but don't just ride on that, I guess is what I'm saying. Don't just ride on the fact that instant success blew you up and now I'm this and that and I start changing, doing all this other stuff because I think I'm all this and that, right? I think I'm the greatest now because I got one viral hit or whatever. I got instant success. What I'm saying is once you did that, then you're supposed to take that money, be cautious, put it into things that are your long-term plays that then will grow you to be that person that you're saying that you really want to be. Because again, that's planned success. That's the one that will sustain you for the long term. That instant one just gave you the revenue or the audience that you needed to start building that other slower grind success type stuff, right? Design has given me financial independence and network with people who are way smarter than me in the industry. I'm trying to go. Yeah. And so design, videography, photography, website design, directing, and development, right? App development. These are the things that I've been doing for years, right? 20 years. These things have enabled me to move out the country, to move around the United States, to be able to be involved in rooms and places that I would have never been in had I not done the things that I've done. And I wanted to make sure that the company that I was building could be done virtually. I could do what I do no matter where I live. And I did this 20 years ago, back when it wasn't necessarily easy to do this. And from there, I've just kept grinding, right? I've just kept grinding. It's never been a fact that I've had to blow up. I've never had the instant success. It's always been a grind for me, right? I do music too, right? Y'all know that. I told you, if you go over here to my website, right? richbz.com/links, you can listen to my music. That too, it has not been, I've not gotten anything that's been a blow up. Everything has been a grind and growth over time, right? But what I know is the more that you do that, the more you grow over time and you grow into what you're trying to become, then one, it's true to you. You are that thing because you've done it for so long that that becomes you. Two, the people who then come aboard and start following you and going with you on that journey, they then are locked in with you. They got your back. They're like, yo, I'm for them. They, they're like super fans, if you will. You know what I mean? But not even super fans. They're more like partners, right? Because they're the people who are going to buy your tickets. They're the people who are going to, promote you even when you're not even know that they're promoting you. They're talking to other people about you, right? About your designs, about your developments, right? They get into conversation. They're like, oh, I know somebody. Here's the person you need to go talk to. Those people. Why? Because they've seen you grind. They've seen you grow. They've seen your trajectory. All because you discern what you need to do as you've grown over time, right? And people like that. People like that aspect when they can tell that, hey, I remember when they had like one follower. Now they got 8 billion followers. Why? Because I've seen the growth trajectory. I've seen how they've changed, how they've had to become something different. You know what I mean? Not for bad, but for good, to become something great. And once they see that, once that vision has been put in somebody else's mind, like people who have followed me over my journey when I was doing that to now doing this, like they're like, and they've told me this. They said, yo, like you walk by faith everywhere, right? And the faith walk is not because I'm like, oh, I'm such and such. No, the faith walk was because I had no option. My option was I have to do it, right? I know that I have this vision in my head and I'm going to do it, right? If I have a vision in my head, I'm going to do it. Now, the thing about it is, if I'm going to do it, then that means that I have to put the work behind it, right? I'm going to have to step out on it. It doesn't matter whether I have it. It doesn't matter whether I can support it. If the vision is there and I feel like the vision is viable, I'm going to do it. And as I do it, provision keeps coming. As I keep walking, provision keeps coming, right? Would I like for something to blow up? Yes, right? But again, even if it does blow up right now, for me, it's not instant success, right? It's not instant success because I built it over time. I'm only doing the same things that I've always done. So if it blows up now, it's because I've built and created who I am and what I do. And I know exactly what I do and exactly who I am. And then that's what ends up finally blossoming, exploding out to the masses. Does that make sense? I recently found out that there's been a group of people in the industry who they talk about me positively and are stoked to see me grow and get better. Yeah, felt really cool to find out my work and attitude has gained me some recognition in this space. Never thought that would happen. Exactly. Exactly. But that's because don't search for it. You do the thing. You know what I'm saying? Become great at doing the thing. Others will lift you up, right? You keep on your grind. Others will see your grind and say, you know what? They should be here. That doesn't mean that you can't network. That doesn't mean that you can't meet people and hey, introduce them to what you're doing. But you're doing that. You're just sharing. It takes a lot of weight off of you, right? It takes a lot of weight off when you just share the things that you're doing. If you push it, you steady patting yourself on the back and blowing yourself up and acting like you're this and that. People are gonna be like, well, they already that. They can get that on their own. right? But if you just do the grind, you shaking hands, you're telling people, hey, check out my work. This is some of the work that I've done, right? I'm not trying to sell you on nothing. I'm not trying to make you my client. I'm just telling you, here's what I've done in the past, right? People be like, oh yeah, they're really cool. I like your designs. You know what I mean? You know what? I have a project that I think you might be real good for. And they start lifting you up to the higher levels. The Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth, right? So what does that mean? Because inherit, right? And inherit means that you didn't build it, somebody else built it and gave it to you, right? If you meek, that means you're not in there blowing yourself up. Oh, I'm such and such. Oh, I'm the best. Oh, I'm the this, that, and the third. No, you're just doing the thing, right? I'm doing the thing. I'm staying in my lane. I'm becoming the best version of myself. I'm focused on me and my direction and my goals, dreams, and aspirations, right? As I'm doing that, people see that and they say, you know what? I like that man. I like that dude. I like that girl. I like that woman. And they say, here you go. Right? And they lift you up to the next level. You keep on the grind. You keep doing your thing. You just sharing with people. You're talking to people, but you're just on your grind. Here you go. That's how the world works. That's how the world works. You know what I'm saying? So keep becoming the best version of yourself. Keep showing up, keep doing the thing that you do so well, and let everything else, right? Let everything else come as it comes, right? You stick to what your goal is and what your dream is. Achieve your goal. Achieve the vision that you set out to achieve. If your goal is, I'm gonna be the best designer I can be. I want to be able to design something as good as the ceiling of the 16th chapel, right? Then that's what you set out to do. And you don't stop till you do it. But you don't never know what's going to get you up there, right? And when I say up there, I use that example on purpose because they got to lift you up there. You know what I mean? To the ceiling. That's the only way you're going to be able to paint on that ceiling. Somebody got to lift you up. So I think that us figuring out how we can discern the right advice for us, or the right situations, or the right opportunities in which things are for us, when do I need to turn, when do I need to go straight, when do I need to stop, when do I need to be all gas no brake. That's going to come from your building up that discernment muscle. Okay, so keep doing that. Keep building up your discernment muscle. In every situation that you come into contact with, put it through the lens of discerning. Is this for me? Is it for me right now? Is it for, is it an opportunity that's going to help me to grow and become better? Is it an opportunity, or is it something that is for me, or it's going to end up, will this ruin my life? You know what I'm saying? These are the questions that you have to ask yourself, and you have to do that regularly if you're going to be able to stay on course. So that's why I'm telling you, you right now need to figure out what your goal is, what your dream is, what are you aspiring to be, what is your trajectory? Because if you know that, it's easier to implement discernment on whether something is for you or not. All right. So this has been great. This has been wonderful. Thank you for joining today. I appreciate everybody that continues to come, continues to support, right? If you haven't followed yet, make sure you hit the follow button. If you want to subscribe, hey, you can subscribe for free with your Prime account. Other than that, this has been a very interesting continuation of yesterday's, that advice is not for you. But today we've talked about how to filter that information that's coming in. I appreciate you. See you around. Like I always say, tell a friend to follow your man's Rich B's, the real Rich B's, on all of these. Rich B's out.